Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining today. If we haven't yet met, I am Leah Simon. I'm the founder of The Box Co. and the creator of the Comeback Box. And I'm on a mission to make self-growth simple, strategic, and stylish so that it's approachable and affordable for everyone. And I did this first with the Comeback Box, and now every week I'm bringing on a guest to unbox their expertise for you. And today I'm super excited. Alice Toyonaga is joining us today. She is the co-founder of Modo Yoga LA, and it's really important to me to support this community. It's been my yoga community before the pandemic and during the quarantine. They have been so supportive of all of us. So today, all of the box sales, 10% is going to support Modo Yoga LA. And you're also, when you purchase a box, going to get a complimentary month to Modo's virtual studio. And so no matter where you are, you can practice with them. It's a really amazing experience. I love it. And the box is also 10% off. I'm going to give you a code that you can use. It's LIVEMODO. So that's what's happening today. Alice is going to share her personal wellness journey with us, as well as founding a company. And we're going to talk about anything and everything you all want to discuss as well. Really quick about Alice. She has been on a health and wellness journey for the last 15 years. Her story is amazing, where she went from being out of shape and a smoker and at risk for a stroke before the age of 30 to now she is the owner and founder of a yoga studio running marathons. So I can't wait for you to meet her. She's also about to begin another amazing journey of motherhood. And she is almost done with her box, and we haven't chatted about it. So I'm super excited to hear how she's feeling about that. And Alice is here. Hi, Alice. Okay, let me bring you up.
Yay!
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm good. It's nice to see your face.
It's good to see your face. I love
Yeah.
your wood pile.
Oh, thank you.
It's
Yep, not using
beautiful.
the fireplace right now, but anything to bring nature into this place is a good
Yes.
thing.
I have some birch trees in my corner that I just like
Love that.
dried birch logs that I love.
Amazing. I love
Hi,
that.
everybody. Hi, Jenny. Hi, Olivia. If
Hi, Liv
anybody
and
has
Jenny.
a question, you can hit that little question icon and it will send it to us. This is a really open chat. Um, so thank you so much for joining me today and for everything, you and Modo have done over the last year. It's been such a blessing. And I want to talk about how you guys managed to do all of it. But I just, first of all, wanted to say thank you.
Oh my gosh. We honestly could not do it without the community. So the thanks goes right, the ripple of thanks and gratitude goes right back to the community tenfold. Because I mean, and this is not just us as individuals or us as business owners, but collectively, this whole world, we've all we've experienced some beauty over the last year, and we have been brought to our knees countless times. And Emily, who's my business partner, and I, like, we've had our fair share of the ugliest tears and like moments of just like, I can't anymore. But honestly, it's the community that's kept us going. So thank you.
Well, I mean, it was just amazing to feel that sense of community, being able to join yoga classes and seeing other people at their homes, even though we were all separate, it still felt like we were together in a way, especially at the beginning. The beginning was super tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting because it's almost like we've had several lives even through the quarantine, because at the beginning it felt such like we just felt that surge of we can do this collective, like we can do this. And then when we
Yeah.
realized that 2 weeks was actually not 2 weeks, we
Right.
we started to see like just this, you know, this all of our collective sense of resilience all of a sudden being tested. But it's on the other side of that we grow. It's on the other side of that, like it's uncomfortable as all hell. And it takes a lot of courage, but it's on the other side of that we change and grow. And we even saw that as teachers, as entrepreneurs, but also in our community. There was this big, like we call it like the Zoom fatigue, where everybody kind of just like, we can't do this anymore. And then we were all able to kind of come back in because we realized that it's something that we miss and that we need and that we crave, that sense of connection.
Yeah. I mean, I do. I miss the hot room. I miss the
Yeah.
heat and just that collective energy. I mean, even before quarantine, I had friends who preferred to do yoga at home, and there was something about it. Even though we go in the room and we're very quiet, there's something about the collective energy all doing it together that I can't wait to do. I saw you have a pop up this weekend
Hmm.
outside.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. So we were open for 5 glorious days back in July, and we actually made the decision. We weren't told we had to close again. We just made the decision like it doesn't feel right. And at that time, with the surging cases, it didn't feel right. I think I saw Olivia pop in, but like Olivia took we when we were open for those 5 days, she took one of those classes, and of course I cried. I cried everything, but I cried when I was teaching. But she did say afterwards, like, nothing replaces this. And it's so true. It's that palpable energy of all of us being in breath together and having this like unified why. And we have been doing it outdoors. I mean, this weekend's gonna be epic because it's a Britney Spears live DJ class. I'm really excited about that. But at 35 weeks pregnant, I'll just be like, use my words to move around because I don't think I'll be doing much of the yoga. But yeah, they're even like masked and outdoors. There's just something about the shared energy of showing up for this common purpose. And there's nothing replaces that. Nothing
Yeah.
replaces that.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
human connection is meant to be physical, and I feel like we've all been tested this past year.
Big time. And we have to be so gentle towards that because not only have we, I mean, even my own narrative or my own story was like, I'm resilient. And then when all of a sudden I was like, I have run out of resilience. But of course we have. And we need to take care of ourselves during that time. Like we've all like, think of the power bar that we've overloaded with too many things. Our surge capacity just all like exploded, and we have to take the care to repair that. But we're starting to feel that. We're truly, truly starting to feel that as, I mean, we've got the nice weather here in LA, luckily, but as things start to slowly reopen and we start to really rethink what's the most important to us values wise, um,
Right.
yeah, we're feeling like that's part of our repair right now as we reintegrate into society on the other side of this.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about resilience because it's not an unlimited resource. The same as willpower. I think about resilience as a set of skills anyone can learn, and you can do certain habits and behaviors to strengthen your resilience. And to me, that's what the comeback box was all about, trying to give you ways to strengthen that muscle and take care of yourself. But it's much like willpower, where if you're relying on it as just something you have, that's a limitless resource. You're, in my opinion, kind of setting yourself up for failure because it's not limitless. It's
Hmm.
something you constantly have to be feeding. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, with
Yeah.
everything, including getting to your like a lot, we did hear a lot from people being like, "Yeah, I tried the yoga at home. It's so hard because my my dogs are
Right.
coming on my mat, or my kids are doing school from home, or even like our whole attention span having been reduced." But with everything, I'm like, everything is flexing a muscle, and
Right.
everything is to be done with consistency, but at some point, can we be okay? And it's not a failure when we crash, when that's just not available,
Yeah.
because we need that. And I there was one of the cards in the box. I mean, the box. We could just talk about the box. The box has been such an amazing journey. But there was one in particular, one card that just, I was like, oh, I feel so seen right now. And it was the hierarchy of emotions, because I realize where I sit on that hierarchy. And it's not that I'm Pollyanna or always positive, but I generally am around, very naturally around, some of those, like, inspired and joyful kind of adjectives.
Yeah.
And then what I realize is that when I get so uncomfortable, when I'm on the other end of the spectrum, and despair and anger and
Yeah.
rage, like, because it's not known territory, but we have to allow ourselves that, because it's part of this being human. And what I was realizing, the reason I felt so seen, is I was like, oh yeah, like, maybe I'm only allowing myself to be 80% human. I don't let myself fully get into those
Right.
ugly areas, or those, like, very, very uncomfortable areas. And that, even though that's flexing a muscle, right? So
Right.
it's like, is it okay to crash and just scroll on social one night, or eat the whole pizza? Sure. Yeah. And then that's part, in a way, of our own self-care too. And being like, okay, that's not where I am all the time, but it's a way for me to kind of take it one step at a time, and not expect this unattainable, you know, always resilient, always this, because that's
Right.
its own story.
I'm so glad to hear that that resonated with you. When I read a book and saw, it was called Ask and It Is Given, and first saw the hierarchy of emotions years ago, it was a huge breakthrough for me. And just for some people who may have not done the box, what we're talking about is I created this box, well, the comeback box, this past year, because I've been studying human behavior for the last 20 years. And I realized a lot of people that were struggling, I had some tools that other people didn't have. So I distilled personal development philosophies into a deck of cards, and it's a 28-day journey where each day you do a card, and then there's sensory objects that round out the lessons of the cards, and then they live around your home as reminders and triggers. So I just want to be inclusive in case not everyone's familiar with the box. And this particular card, it lists from 1 to 22 different emotions, 1 being the highest, being joy, and 22 being despair. And what there is to kind of see there is how many emotions there are between those. Because I think often if we're feeling bad, we immediately want to be joyful again. And what there is to recognize is you just need to reach for, like, the next emotion up the ladder. It's pretty impossible to jump from one to another. And so that's what we're discussing right now. And Alice, I mean, I'm like you. I tend to naturally exist sort of in a motivated, positive space. And so it was so liberating, because sometimes when I am down in the lower areas, I could be so hard on myself, like, get back up, like, and I wanted to make this huge jump, and just recognizing, like, just reach for the next level up. That's good enough for today.
And one thing that I love about that, because I think, especially through the last year, a lot of us have experienced emotions and ranges of emotions that we're not as in tune with, and we don't know what to do with. And so perhaps it's more natural for us to say, snap out of it, or what are the things that normally bring me back to myself, whether it's yoga or meditation or a hot bath. And what's been really tested over the last year is that as our resilience gets out of whack, as everything gets out of whack, sometimes those things weren't enough. You get to your mat, or you get to your breath, and you're
Right.
still like, why am I still feeling empty? Or why am I still feeling anxious? And all of these different things. And so it's been interesting to see what it's like to live in some of those other emotions, and what kind of new tools in your tool belt might have to come in. So maybe it's screaming into a pillow. maybe, or you know, dancing. I'm not a dancer. I like to pretend I'm a dancer, but being able to join like Ryan Heffington um, on Instagram, a community that I didn't know anything about, and just dance like a maniac around my living room, like nobody's watching because nobody was watching, is so cathartic and liberating. So it's just a way also for us to be like, okay, those are other little tools in my self-care toolkit. Um, so that's been a really cool place to be. And while we're still on this card, I know this is not a whole thing about this one card, but the
No,
one
no.
thing that I loved so much that I wanted to share, I use it as an intention for a yoga class. It was so inspiring for me. And this box has been really great for that as well, getting me to kind of reframe, you know, and like rethink different ways of how I think. But I read this in Untamed as well, which is like we're so consumed by our devices, and we see this a lot now with youth in particular. And it's like when we bring ourselves back to when we were kids,
Mm-hmm.
the creativity that would come on the other side of boredom. We needed to get bored in order to create new worlds, go into the backyard and just create new worlds and develop new passions and creativity. We don't allow ourselves to get bored anymore. And that is such a loss. And I definitely know that I didn't want those quiet moments over the last year. It was so uncomfortable to be facing myself. And so I'd be reaching for a distraction. And I love on this card that that boredom is there, and on the other side of it are all these beautiful, beautiful states of being, like creativity and passion being reignited. And so I have made it. I mean, I only have a few weeks before baby. I don't know how bored I'll be after baby, but I've been in creating space for myself. I have been like, part of my transition has been, put the phone on do not disturb. Don't even reach for the book. Maybe get bored. Let yourself get bored, because on the other side of, like, it might be really, really uncomfortable, but on the other side of that, there's a brilliance that we is untapped right now.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about that. There's something I discovered that I'll share with you because I I feel like I never really had problems disconnecting from the phone, but the past year it's been tough because it was the connection to everyone. We
The
were so
lifeline.
disconnected, yeah. So I discovered this feature. If you go into screen time, there's something called downtime. Do you know about this? And
No.
basically, okay, I think it's genius. So you can manipulate it in a lot of different ways, but basically, I can shut everything off except giving like close family and friends who may need me in an emergency. They can call me, but everything else is locked. Like
Oh.
you can't go into any app. You don't get a notification from any app. It's almost like going on airplane mode, but you can give it like a few ways for people to contact you. And then you can set times every day where that's when it's going to go into that mode. So what I found was having it when I first woke up and having a few hours before I ever like used the phone or was in contact with anyone. Um, just having those couple hours was golden for me.
Life hack. I love it. I'm
Yeah,
going to try it.
yeah. The other thing you were talking about that I think is interesting is I feel like this past year I had to find new things. Like the things that used to work for me weren't really working anymore. I mean,
Hmm.
one, because a lot of them weren't available, like all the things I used to do in my life. So I think it's been a really interesting year of exploring new things and new ways. Um, like it was funny. There were even chairs in my house that I never sat in before. They were just like things that I would use if I had guests over and just exploring new little nooks of my house.
Absolutely. I mean, there's such a beauty in that. It also made me rethink how we come up with our own limitations, how we get in our own way. Um, like at one point when we weren't even allowed to go on hikes and things like that, I was like, but I need nature. Like I need nature. And of course, like, and I maintain that I need nature. Um, and but then I was like, why am I on my phone when I'm walking the dog then? Why am I not actually taking in my surroundings? Or why am I not getting plants for my balcony and creating my own oasis?
Right.
So we bring those experiences to us rather than being like, well, I can't because I can't because Yosemite is closed.
Right.
Well, that may be true, but
Right.
how are we actually closing the door on ourselves in the day to day? So
Do you know
been
what
cool.
a cowboy tub is? Have you seen those in Joshua Tree? The like
I,
steel tubs?
mm-hmm.
So I got one last summer because when we couldn't go to the beach and we couldn't go to pools and it was 100 something degrees, I was like, I can't do this. So I got a cowboy tub and like put it in the backyard and created this little spa in my backyard.
As one does. You can't go to Joshua Tree. You bring Joshua Tree to your balcony.
Yes.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I
Yeah.
love it.
Um, so any other, you're almost done with the box, right?
I'm almost done. I've got 3 days left.
Okay.
And it's been so exciting. I mean, you set the tone for the box. When you first start the box, it's the same thing that every time I still lift heavy, maybe not as heavy, but I still lift every day and I still get on my bike. I'm not running right now. And there are times, of course, I listen to my body, but even with that, and when I'm teaching, I'm like, when we're in a time of challenge physically, I'm like, I love to remind myself of the mindset of we get to do this. We don't have to do this. And you establish this right off the bat with the box, being like, this will work if the mindset is that this is for you. This is not a have to do, right?
Right.
And I love that. It really definitely set the tone that every day it's like a little, I love ritual. I love ceremony and ritual. And it's so, there's two things that I love so much about the box. The first is that it doesn't take a lot of time. And so if you give yourself the presence to be there, in just a little bit of time, you get to connect and meet yourself, which really sets a tone, whether you're doing it first thing in the morning or kind of clearing your day and doing that reflection at night. And the second thing is how intuitive the box is, almost in a creepy way, I have to say. Like, I'm like, how do you know what I'm thinking right now? Because so week by week, the different focus areas, but even then day by day within that, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, that's reading my mind. It's so intuitive how it goes from one to the next. And especially especially because a lot of the things, I mean, the comeback box is so beautiful to do when you're in a time of transition. And I think all of us have been in a time of transition for the past year. And even now, when we're trying, introvert or extrovert, in trying to see what the next step of reintegrating into society looks
Yeah.
like, that's a whole transition we have to be very graceful and tender towards ourselves with. But as I've been exploring the last 8 months in my transition into motherhood, I've been doing a lot of the healing work, a lot of the looking at my relationships and changing my perspectives. And so, what a beautiful parallel track to get to do this box at the same time. In a way, a lot of it was already set in motion because I was like, oh, well, I'm already nesting. Nesting is pretty much clearing out your mind and your space, you know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's just been really cool because the self-discovery work is something, I mean, even through yoga and through my day-to-day self-discovery work is so important to me. But it's really beautiful to have the nudge, just a very simple nudge, or a question asked differently for you to really reflect, and change and shift your perspective. So it's been a really awesome month. Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad to hear.
Yeah.
I was really interested in, your perspective on it. I built it last year in 2020 um and so it's just really really nice for me to see how it's making an impact, if it's making an impact with people. Um I was talking to Laura Shine, who I met at Modo a few weeks ago, and she had a similar experience where she felt like each day was sort of giving her in a like magical, but also kind of like do 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 do, like that each day was kind of coming just when she needed it to.
Absolute serendipity to some of those
Yeah,
days. Like, yeah,
yeah. But I
I
wonder
love
if
that.
it's like tarot cards and other things where, you see what you need to see,
Sure. I
right?
mean,
Yeah,
and in a way, I think like, so that's what's beautiful. I think what's going to be very timeless about this box is we're always in states of transition, and the past year was a very heightened one.
yeah,
Um, but in a really, like, I've seen and know of so many of my friends and colleagues and peers who've gotten married, or maybe in the last year we're like, actually no, we're getting divorced, but it's okay, because like just clarity around things, or
yes,
having, starting families or adopting a pet, like just all these beautiful, but all of these are huge, huge life transitions, losing work and starting work. And in all of that, um, there's a lot of questions that come up, a lot of doubt that comes up. And so when you're in that mindset of transition anyway, I think that the right question on a particular day is just right for that, for us to really relate to it.
yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's so interesting because I think, I built the box to help people, but it also, building it very much was giving me purpose through quarantine. And just looking back on the experience, of founding the company, which I'd never done before, and building this product, which I'd never done before, um, I feel like it unboxed me and opened up a lot of things for me. I didn't even realize how emotional it would be to make it public. It
Mm.
felt, like really putting myself out there. And I didn't realize it was going to occur that way. But it's been very much its own journey, which I wanted to talk to you about as a founder of this amazing company. Um, Kind of what your journey was like, because so many people are starting their own businesses this past year. And so, everything from your health journey and how that led you into becoming a yoga instructor and then having your own company. How did that happen?
I mean, it certainly didn't happen overnight. I know in the intro you talked about like the last 15 years, and yeah, it's I I go back to, even with quarantine. I don't think we all felt this way at the beginning, but it's like, it's this Lao Tzu quote that I like to think about, that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. And that was a huge, huge shift for me. I mean, what happened in 2004, as I said, I never knew that I felt great in my body, but I was over 220 pounds. I was a smoker. I worked 80-hour weeks. Oh, youth. Oh, being naive and being young and having endurance. Um, and I went to the doctors one day, and I didn't see myself that way, because I just had a different perspective. I was like, I felt like I had the vitality, because I didn't know what I could compare it with. And my doctor is just like, hey, like, if you continue down this road, you're going to have a stroke before you're 30. And she just put it on. She just said, like, so what do you want to do about that? And it just hit me. And I was so strong in her office, and I was like, well, I'll do something. Yeah, I'll do something. And of course, I left the office and bawled my eyes out and got on the city bus. And I was just like, what am I going to do? Like, how did I let it get to this? But I like, overwhelm, or starting like setting ourselves up for failure, is trying to be like, let's do everything at once. And that just doesn't work. And so I rang the little dinghy on the bus, official term, and got off at a different stop. And I got off at a gym that I'd passed, a women's only gym that I'd passed like every day on my way home. And I just walked upstairs and I said, like, I'd like to join. Like, that was just like, I was like, no
Wow.
one else is going to take action for you. And so that first year, I was like, I'm just going to move my body, because I felt like I had vitality. To me, that was my promise to myself. I'm just going to move my body 3 times a week. Start with that. And 3 times a week changed to 4 to 5 times a week, as I loved it.
Yeah.
And of course, like, a lot of tears, a lot of sweat, a lot of tears. But I didn't change anything else in that first year. I was like, I'm just going to focus on this, because that in and of itself is hard, and it's a habit. Like, I wanted to find something that brought me joy, right? So maybe it wasn't running on the treadmill, but maybe it was joining an aerobics class because of that community
Yeah.
component. And so at the 1 year mark, I went back to the doctor. She's like, you lost 30 pounds. Like, that's great. I said, thanks. And then that became my anniversary. So before that, while I might be like, I'm going to start, I think we all do this. I'm going to start a diet on a Monday. Oh, it's the
Right.
first of the month. Oh, it's the first of the year. We create all these like arbitrary milestones. But
Right.
my anniversary is October 24th. It's a Wednesday. It has no rhyme or reason. It's that doctor's appointment, right? So it's like we're always in control of that first step. So October 24th became my anniversary. So anniversary year 2, I was like, maybe I should look into how I eat, and got more educated on that. Year 3 anniversary, hey, maybe smoking's not good for you. Year 4 anniversary, my sister runs half marathons. Surely I can do that. We're not competitive at all. And year 5, and so on and so forth. And then every October 24th became a new anniversary. And then they became more nuanced over time rather than it just be a number on a scale, which really it's not. I'm not a different Alice than I was at 222 pounds. I'm the same essence of who I am. But so as it started to become more nuanced, one of my anniversary goals might be, I want to learn how to take compliments with more grace, because like I'm not good at that, so kind of looking at different ways that I could incorporate what something that is good for you is. And so it wasn't just physical, it's like it became emotional and mental as well.
Yeah.
And yoga came into that because, well, runners are a little crazy. So I wasn't a runner, but I did a 5K and I was like, okay, that's fun. I can probably do 10. Sure enough, you double it, you do 10, you do a half marathon, that becomes a marathon. Like, of course it does. Makes no sense at all. And as I was doing that, I was like, my body feels really achy because running is hard.
Yeah.
And I started to do hot yoga in Toronto and at a different studio, which was wonderful with my friend Jill, who I saw here too. And there was something about doing the yoga that I liked in the moment, which was like, oh, I'm sweaty. I didn't put my finger on what we're talking about, which is connection and community. At the time, I was like, it's a workout. I'm sweating. I like the heat. That's about it. And then as I started to go to a Modo in Toronto, and it was the first time that I was like, oh, that's what it feels like. Like the vision and the pillars and the ethics came through without me even knowing what they were. I could tell that this was a place that valued community and accessibility, and that health is not just a number on a scale, but it's so all encompassing of who we are from the inside out. And I felt that through and through. And it was as I started to incorporate more and more yoga that I was like, I need to go to teacher training. And then you go to teacher training and your heart gets cracked open and you're like, great. Then that's like the point of no return. And after that, as I continued my journey there, I really found a why that was my guiding North Star. And I was like, community is so important. I saw that everything that I would do, whether it was like running marathons, it's my own 2 feet getting me through the 20 weeks of training. It's my own 2 feet that get me to the finish line. It's my own 2 feet that get me to challenge myself and go to Boston and run the Boston Marathon. But I could not do it without a community. And to me, the hot room is the same. The teacher is giving you cues, but it's up to you to make the practice your medicine. It could easily be your poison as well. So we have to listen to our bodies so much. And even though everyone's doing their own practice and everyone's doing their own breath, it's the power of the community around you that makes you really feel it in a totally different way.
Real quick, what do you
Yeah.
mean it can be your poison?
I think and this is not just about yoga. I think I would say this with anything and everything. When we talk about, it's all about balance. I say that to people. If we don't listen to what our bodies need or our minds need on a particular day, we can take something that is technically so good for us and turn it from our medicine to our poison. So something that could be so therapeutic. So for me, running, for example, if all of a sudden I get and I have not run in a long time. I retired in 2016, I would say.
I have
But
never been a runner. That is not my thing. I don't do well with it.
I got to say, at the beginning of quarantine, it was my freedom. like to lace up again and to find myself. And then all of a sudden, like it was the first thing, week 22 of pregnancy. I was like, I'm going to lace up my shoes now. That's enough. Because every step you got to pee, and that's not fun. but so like even taking that example, if I was so set that no, running is my thing, it is my identity, and I'm going to beyond week 22 keep running and increasing my miles,
Right.
I could be turning this beautiful thing that is a healing thing for my body and turning it into my poison and turning it maybe into my baby's poison, right? So it's
Right.
like
Right.
truly being honest with what it is on a particular day that is going to heal us.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I mean. And I'm not saying that yoga is poison or yoga is medicine, but it's like with everything in our lives, it's finding that place where, are we honoring what the good that can bring to me right now? Or are we pushing it beyond and going to an extreme of it that all of a sudden is not serving us for our greater good in that moment?
Yeah, I think you're so right, just in terms of any wellness journey. Like we start off with the best intentions and we pick up little habits. And I think, it's totally true that we can become so rigid in wanting to keep those habits or keep that nutrition boundaries that we've set, that we're going to visit foreign countries and not trying any of the delicacies because we have 25 rules about what we put in our mouth. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that's great. So you were telling us, okay, so I think we're at the point you had done the teacher training. And before this, what was your profession before becoming a yoga instructor?
I mean, it's very obvious. I think I was a director for the government in Canada, right? That's like naturally what people do before they open a yoga studio. Um,
You were a director for the government?
yeah, and I was like,
Okay.
I was in a place where even actually when I went to do my visa interview with immigration, they were like, it doesn't look it, they didn't believe me on paper. They were like, you are at a place where most people want to retire. People want to retire in that like cushy job for the government, and
Right.
you're going to get rid of all of that and go start a business in a really saturated market for yoga. I'm like, exactly. Ding ding ding. um but that, even when you were talking about the comeback box, like, yeah, it's a hard thing to put yourself out there. Like I had a lot of why or what ifs in that. Like, what if this happens? What if this happens? Because it's a huge transition. But I had a really strong why, just like, you had that with the box, and that becomes your north star. Um, and so the first Modo Yoga LA, which was founded by Emily, Dina, and Jess, when I was still very governmenty,
Okay.
um, part of their thing too was, are people going to come? Like same, like, when you were talking about like this, like putting yourself out there with the box, they were like, we want to bring this therapeutic green hot yoga that we know like just feels so good in our bodies to LA. But LA, and maybe it was LA in 2011, was very much a bigger, faster, level 3, stand on one finger, And they were like, actually, we're going to be bringing this set sequence that is like a slower pace. And are people going to like it? And, they didn't know. And people did. Like, I think like people could feel the vision and the ethics, and they could feel that the therapy of that sequence, but also it's in how we approach our why and what keeps us really grounded, that north star, that like every decision that we make is around wanting people to feel seen and heard every single time they're in that space, to have people kind of like, how do we get out of our own ways so we can reach our highest potential in this like very short life that we have on this earth.
Yeah.
And connection, like we're in a world which I think more and more now we are valuing connection, but we're in a world where there's a lot that separates us from that connection. So
Yeah.
every single time we get to our mat is like, how do we get closer to our breath, to being comfortable in this skin and in this body that we are in? And then how does that ripple to the person that's next to us on the mat, or the lovers and the strangers off of the mat in our lives, and then our connection to the environment and so on. And it's just this constant reminder. It's just like, I like to think of like it's an ecosystem, right? Every single time we come back to our mat, we just like, okay, well, our road rage meter is a little bit out of whack, and our ego meter is a little bit out of whack, and our relationship, like I just had a fight, is a little bit out of whack. So how do we come back to just the essence of that connection? And it was in Toronto when I met Emily in 2012, when we just met each other and we said, like, we're going to work together one day. Like we got off the subway and she went home and called Dina and said, like, I think we're going to work with Alice one day. And I went home and told my partner at the time the exact same thing. And I didn't know what that was going to look like, because I said, well, it's not going to be. He's like, what, you're going to move to LA? I'm like, no way. No way am I moving to LA. I had a whole story. I was like, I'm not a valley girl. Like, I'm not blonde. I can't move to LA. Clearly I'd never been to LA before, but talk about getting in your own way. But I said, no, but it doesn't matter. We are, like, there's a connection there, and we're going to work together one day. And yeah, never say never. The rest is history. I came down here actually for a race. I was like, well, let me see what LA is like. So I came down here for a race, and yeah, the rest is history. And then what's been so cool is when I look back, whether it is the running or the health journey or the yoga or now Modo, my reminder constantly is to take the word impossible and change it to I'm possible, or we're possible, or it's possible. But like just this constant reminder to get out of our own way. And so that Lao Tzu quote comes back to me often. I mean, it's I have to tell myself in the marathon always, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. But it's the same thing when we're starting our own business and we start to doubt, or we're exhausted and it's like just bringing us back to our why constantly is that's what allows us to know we're doing what's our medicine.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, Modo, I love it so much. I love the sequence. I think it's a familiar sequence, that there are differences and nuances through the class, but I think there's something about it. I couldn't do it for you. Like, I don't have it memorized, but somehow when I get back into it, my body knows what's coming next. And so I think it allows me to get deeper or relax more, because I'm not trying to follow, every time. And I've traveled and gone to other modos, and I do think it's a very similar vibe. And I know what you're talking about. Like, you go into these classes and it's all about handstands and poses and tricks almost. And I love Modo because it has like a very different vibe than that. So it's really interesting to hear that even for you all, it was kind of a leap of faith of, are we going to have this crazy product? Are people going to like it?
And don't get me wrong, like, there's nothing wrong with the tricks and the handstands, and there's a practice for everybody.
Sure.
And I think what's beautiful, it's like the power. Of course, we have some classes that are a set sequence, like the Modo that you just said, and you nailed it. You hit it on the head, which is, it's intended to be a place where your whole nervous system can exhale. That's the power of repetition, right?
Yeah.
And it's not repetition for word, but it's it's being able to come out of our thinking mind and just really, really feel and embody. And that's the beauty of a set sequence. And we also have a lot of stuff that is sequence based, like very, very creative and smartly sequenced. And the power of repetition there is our breath, right? And I think that's what's so powerful about yoga, is that it allows us to trust the intuition of our breath and our movement, so that even if we don't know what's coming next in the sequence, that it's a dance with ourselves. And it's okay if we're not, it's like, oh, I how did they get to the top of their mat? I'm at the back of my mat still. But it's just, did you move with an ease and with like is it like a waltz with yourself? And if it is, you're doing it, right? You're embodied. Yeah. How
Oh,
about that,
I
Renee?
love that part about yoga. I grew up dancing, and so I love to dance, but playing the game with myself of can I match my breath to each movement? Can I do this all with on my inhale and this all on my exhale? I love playing that game.
And it's what's fascinating is the days where you realize, oh, I can't today. Like I'm there. There's been moments in even in my
Sure.
transition. Like I'll remember this around opening. We didn't mean to open two studios at once, but it kind of. I mean, city permitting and so many other different factors aside, we ended up kind of having twins. Echo Park and Venice Studios opened a few months apart, and that was never intended. And then now looking back, it's like, but it was also kind of perfect. But there was a period during that time when I getting to my mat was really hard. I didn't have the depth of my breath, or I was so focused on other things that I would feel like I'm crawling out of my skin. So does it mean on those days that the practice is not worth it? Not at all. I all I can think in those days is imagine I didn't get to my mat. Imagine I didn't observe that about myself, or I didn't let some of that out, right? So it's like we're just kind of always chipping away a little bit at a time. So that the days where we don't quite have it are like
Yeah.
some of our best teachers.
So what's really funny and ironic, and I relate to this, is that um, I built this box to help everybody take care of themselves. And when I was writing it, I very much had to take care of myself because I had a lot of rituals I had to do to get myself in the right headspace to be able to write and create. And then I launched the box and the company, which I'd never done before, and completely stopped doing all of it. So the irony, I built this box to help people take care of themselves, and now I'm not taking care of myself. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start the box myself, and I'm going
I
to
love
do
that. I love that. And I mean, we say it to ourselves, we say it to each other, we hold each other very accountable. I mean, I'm so grateful that I have business partners that have no ego as well. Like we've had to drop our ego so much time and time again. And I mean, the whole last year has been the death of many egos. So that's a beautiful thing too. But that's how we can come into a place of really learning and taking feedback. But we've called each other out on it. We have told our leaders this and our teachers this because it's so easy when life really gets going to put aside the thing that is our why. And it's in those moments like that, like we'll really notice, like sometimes I'll have a conversation and I'm so in my head and I'm going to get called out. Like, when's the last time you got to your mat? I was like, oh, right. Yeah. So I love that you're going to do it. And it's just like,
it. Do it.
yeah, it's so funny, but it's like, and then it's when we do that and we come back to the why that we can like, that's all of a sudden when we realize that it's not exhausting anymore because
Right.
it's like we come back to that nugget of inspiration and that North Star and we're like, oh yeah, I can ground myself back in this.
Yes.
Hmm.
And by the way, I have a question for Alice, but if anyone else has a question, if you hit that little question icon, it will send it to us. And I'm also going to quickly put, just to remind everyone, the box is 10% off today. And I just put the code in there. And if you use that code, you'll get a complimentary month to Modo's virtual studio because Alice is so amazing and generous. And we're also donating 10% of all the sales to Modo. So if you want to support Modo, today is a great day. Um, so I was just going to ask Alice if being a female founder, I don't know a lot about that side of the yoga community. I don't know if there's a lot of female founders of yoga studios, or do you feel like that's had an impact at all?
Oh, Emily and I were just, I mean, coming off of Women's History Month.
Right.
Emily and I were really reflecting on this because I was like, I guess like the yoga world might be a little bit anomalous to a lot of different businesses. But because I would say many of them are female led. But yeah, ours is female founded and led, and that has a lot of our learnings have really come from that over the years. And the biggest one, and I think yoga is anomalous as a business in general, because every time we would think about the business of yoga, it just felt like we would shy away from a lot of the business side of things, because to us, it's truly like, truly part of my why. I talked about the I'm possible, but part of my why is also every single person that we can get to connect more to their breath. And that's why for me, there's no competition. I'm like, if we could, and that's all movement and all breath. If we could have different fitness modalities up and down the street everywhere, that's not competition. If we can all be in a place where we're supporting movement and wellness and breath and connection, we are putting out somebody into the world after who's that much closer to a sense of peace.
Mm-hmm.
And able to then ripple that peace, but like off of themselves and towards the interactions that they have with others. And so, and that's why it's over the years I've really felt kind of a dissonance between like, it's a business and like this is what we need to do as a business, and also just like a very, very deep connection of like, how do you place a value on bringing more peace into the world? So that being tough. But what has, as a female entrepreneur, that we have had to learn over and over again and nuance over the years has been, how do we bring the side of ourselves, which is a very natural lead with heart and lead with compassion, and then also feel very, very grounded in our voice, in our boundaries, in our ability to say no when we mean no. Had to learn that one. And also when we're working with a periphery of different businesses that are not traditionally female led. So like when we were building our bricks and mortars, we're working with a lot of contractors and architects and landlords, and the sides of things that are so removed from, we want to bring peace to people. And so with that, it was just around really surrounding ourselves with other really badass women entrepreneurs and learning. And again, like when we're all coming at it from a place of no ego, then we all get to learn from each other and support each other. So that's been really cool learnings.
Yeah, I've had a similar experience where in the, let's say, self-growth and personal development world, there is kind of one way of being, but I'm also building boxes and I'm dealing with a lot of makers and creators that have a different way of speaking and being.
Yeah.
I recently read that only 2% of female-owned businesses ever pass the $1 million mark.
Mm.
And that just hit me for some reason, like why. I feel like I know a lot of female business owners, so I don't know why that ceiling is there, but I feel like we're the people that are going to pass it.
There you go.
But I also just want to thank you so much, because Modo was one of the first companies to support the Boxco. I mean, I reached out to you and said, hey, I built this box, and you immediately were so supportive, and I just want to thank you so much for that. And then also the past year, I was sort of watching with awe, because I understand you all have this commitment to helping everyone, but it's also a business. And yet you were giving away all these classes for free. And I want to acknowledge that you did that. And, I was really taken back by it. And I was thinking about this before, and I was getting a little choked up just thinking, because I don't know how you all did it, but I mean, it was amazing.
So twofold. First of all, on supporting your venture, and to us, like one of the coolest things is we we would have so many students at Modo come up to us after class, like, oh, like on my mat, I got the clarity for this, or I got so inspired, or it's jump started this and that. And a lot of people coming to us and like thanking us for the inspiration. And similar to how we started today, I was like, it's, we know that sprouted from each person who's coming in, right? Like we're just able to provide the walls and the space for that inspiration to come through. So we want to give people their power back and be like, no, you created that. And it's in that like one of the metrics of success has been exactly that, has been like when that snowball of inspiration, all of a sudden what every person who steps on their mat, when we go like, look at how inspiring you are, and all of a sudden we're just being fed with that inspiration right back, that is joy. And if we can support that in any way, we want to, and we
Aw.
do. And in terms of the last year, I mean, it hasn't been easy. It has brought us to our knees countless times. We've not broken even. We have just kind of like just eked by. And we're about to reopen, which is exciting and in a way, and also very, very scary because it's brand new territory. It's going to be different. And I don't want to say that different is good or bad. It's just different. And we're not out of the woods yet. So we've been on life support, but part of our values has been making sure that it's accessible, making sure that we're not putting boundaries for people, or barriers for people to get to their breath, especially in this last year when people have needed it. So we've just kept really, really true to our vision, and now we're excited to get to see people in 3D, because 4D in person in real life, it's going to be amazing. And it's going to feel like puberty again, I think, because we all, like, as we're all kind of reopening and readjusting, there's going to be all these like these growing pains. Our voice is going to crack. It's going to be a little awkward, but I'm excited to see what's on the other side of this, for sure.
And any way that, I or the box can support you, like I'm here for you. I can't wait to get back. Um, is there anything just for anybody who may be watching about how to feel comfortable coming back, or
Yeah,
anything you can share?
it's so ironic and also so beautiful. I feel like I can kind of spread my wings. I start my leave um like 2 days after the studios reopen. So ironic after like 14 months to be like, oh, okay, have fun, everyone. But also like that's how much we trust our leaders and our teams and our community. Is just that it's doable. It's going to flourish and fly. I guess it just goes back to that same quote again, that everything begins with a single step. Like, I don't even know how I would go back to teaching in that hot room full time. I was like, am I going to die in that room? It's going to be such a shock. But one of my favorite things and I don't know, this is somebody else's quote, but it's like, saying you're not flexible enough to do yoga is like saying you're too dirty to take a shower, right? Like it starts it like so with that, it's like we have to come in with such a gentleness to ourselves, which I'm not just talking about the actual flexibility piece, but like we might have to rest a little bit more. We might have to not take ourselves so seriously in the class if it doesn't feel the way it did 14 months ago.
Right.
But if we've learned anything about ourselves over the last 14 months, is that we are resilient. We are able to be incredibly courageous and learn in uncomfortable situations. And we are adaptable. So that's what's going to be as we get back into, and it's not just the hot room, as we get back into all of these different facets of our lives. I would just say, like, bring a tenderness to it, bring a sense of humor to it, and be ready to kind of regrow it. Like, how amazing is that we get to kind of re-experience something that we were in love with before in a brand new way. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's beautiful. And I feel like in a way we all get a fresh start with it. With a lot of things. I was talking to Derek Jameson last week, who's a holistic life coach, and he was talking, and I thought it was so beautiful that things feel so different now, and we may be disappointed by things, and yet we have changed so much over the last year that we are not the same people that we were. And so things are going to feel and occur differently because we are very different.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's so true.
Like you're saying, it's neither bad or good. But to feel like we're all just going to go back to things we used to do and it's going to feel the exact same, I think is a dangerous expectation.
Yeah. And then there's, of course, and then it's like, how amazing is it to get to be so honest with ourselves and meet ourselves, to go into something that we used to do and go, that's not for me anymore. And then conversely, like, and I know, like, I'm kind, like, in a way it's good that I'm stepping away right when the studios reopen. Otherwise I would be like a blubbering mess of tears for the first like month, because I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of that, stepping back into the hot room of like, just like, oh my gosh, this is home, right? And so
Right.
really being able to kind of place value again on things that, you know, different, we are different, those things are different, and it's like, and then what is our new relationship to those things as we move into the future? So yeah, I'm excited for all those ugly tears on the mat.
I'm excited for it too, and congratulations. I will miss you at the
Thank
studio,
you.
but congratulations. I want to be respectful of your time, but I also just want to ask super quick, how are you feeling? Baby's coming. It's so exciting.
I feel great. I feel like it's exactly the right time. I was just talking to somebody today who was like, you know, COVID allowed us to rethink a lot of our life priorities and what we want to do with the rest of our lives and where we want to live and all this stuff. And even though it's like the irony of the studios reopening and me heading off on leave, I'm like, everything is for now. It's a moment in time. But also, like, had it not been for the world shutting down, maybe it's exactly what my body needed to be like, okay, now it's time to do some of your self-healing, to slow down a little bit so that I could conceive this soul and meet this little future yogi baby.
Yeah.
So yeah, so everything for a reason. Super excited. A little bit scared, not gonna lie, but in a really good way. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
When do we get to meet this baby? When is he or she coming?
Well, so my last day at the studio is going to be like end of April, and then I will do everything that I can to naturally bring this baby earthside. I'm like, I'm going to do squats and lunges and eat my dates and drink my raspberry tea and do all of the things, but early to mid-May.
So right around Mother's Day.
Exactly. I was like,
Yeah.
May the 4th could be a good day, because I could say May the 4th be with you for the rest of his little life. Or Mother's Day.
Beautiful.
I mean, that'd be great.
Beautiful.
So yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I could talk to you all day, but I know you're a busy lady. And thanks to everyone for joining and being in this space with us today. Quick reminder that 10% of those boxes are being donated to Modo. So if you want to support Modo, it's a great time. You also get a complimentary month to their virtual studio. I'm going to leave the code open until tomorrow at midnight. So you all can use it. You can send it to your friends to use it. Friday at midnight, it becomes a pumpkin. And again, it's LIVEMODO. And it'll get you 10% off, plus the month, plus the donation.
Amazing.
It's a good day for a comeback, friends. But Alice, thank you so much. Please let me know if I can do anything to help. And I am going to see you at the studio before your leave.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for this, and thanks for the chat.
Thank you. Have a great day. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.